Exit stage left. Tim Walz is officially dropping out of the Minnesota governor's race. He is announcing that he will not run for re-election in November. The decision comes as a massive fraud scandal in the state continues to grow, with billions in taxpayer dollars potentially stolen across both state and federal programs. In fact, Walz says he doesn't have time for re-election because he's too busy getting to the bottom of it. Brian, do I just dare punt to you? What do you make of this?
Well, okay, so good that he's not going to run again. But here's the problem: if you're kind of if you're a Minnesotan thinking about what's going to happen next, this is what you're afraid of. So he's not going to run. Yeah. But Amy Klobuchar wants to be governor of Minnesota. I think she's got a lot of reasons to run for the governorship. One of them is if she loses, which I don't think, she's got a good chance there, sad to say. And if she loses, she can still keep her Senate seat. So she runs for governor. Apparently, she's the one who had the heart-to-heart with Tim Walz over the weekend on Sunday. She probably said to him, I'll leave my seat if I win the governorship, and I'll appoint you to be in the seat. Now, I don't know if she'll keep that promise, because between now and then, he could get in a lot of legal trouble, and she might say, just kidding about that. We're not going to do it. But what I'm saying is it's not regime change in Minnesota, because the difference between Tim Walz and Amy Klobuchar is they just were in different seats, but representing the same state, and they have the same philosophy, which is they love the nonprofit NGO plug a wire right into federal government grift. They love it. They support it. They want more of it. So the thing that happened in Minnesota will keep happening, whether it's Amy Klobuchar or Tim Walz or whoever is in that seat.
But Kennedy, is this a good sign that any of the fraud that we brought to light, you're starting to see what political pressure looks like?
Yes, I think the more people who lose their political careers over this corruption, the better. And I don't care what party they're from. If this is the kind of thing that you have been supporting, and those of us who lobby for limited government, this is what we're talking about.
Yes.
So last night at dinner, we had a conversation with our girls about whether or not liberals really intend to do good for other people. Because, you know, we granted the idea that, yes, you start off with good intentions. Liberals want to help other people. The problem is when you have access to that kind of money and that little oversight, then corruption takes over and consumes everything in its path. And that's when you have really, really bad outcomes. And the people who need the help the most are the last ones to get it. When these, insanely corrupt people who are just looking to fill their coffers, when that is their goal, the people who are disabled, the elderly, the infirmed, they're the ones who are the last to get the help. And when government grows, corruption grows with it. I think Shakespeare had a line about that at
I
some
believe
point.
it was in Othello or something.
I don't like to quote the bard, but absolute power.
What I love is that you're having these over family dinner conversations.
We do, because
this is actually something more of this
and our girls they are
having.
more than welcome to stake their own political claim.
Yep.
Like whatever they want to identify as, like, I don't care. Just have a good argument for what you believe, and no one can come to the conclusion that liberalism is better for humanity by the second
I named my
course.
firstborn after Ronald Reagan, so I kind of screwed her in life. She doesn't have a choice. She has to.
Yeah.
Is her name Reagan?
It is. It's really
Her name's
Reagan.
Ronald.
Yeah.
So,
Jump in.
No, look, what surprises me,
gosh.
I mean, this is the first time I can say anything positive about Tim Walz, right? You did the right thing. You stepped aside. That being said, why are you leaving if nothing was wrong, right? So obviously, there's more here to it. My biggest concern with all this fraud is it's easily preventable. We have so much digitization and ways to track records and see who's showing up to do different things. How does this continue at such a massive scale? It's because there's too many people involved, right? And if we start digging in and providing transparency and shining light into all these government programs, we're going to find more and more fraud. But I think this is a necessary first step. I hope he gets the book thrown at him for everything that's done. If allegedly it's true and he had oversight of it, you're responsible. Everything rolls up to the top in a public company to the CEO. If you're governor, it's going to roll up to you too.
I'm doing a no-look pass over to Dagan on this, but I just want to make raise the question: is it about the fact that government's not efficient enough and should be doing its job better, or is it just about the government's doing too much? It's too big. The pot of money is too huge, and crooks will find a way. Because I tend to think it's not about government needs to be more effective. I think government just needs to be smaller and do less. But Dagan, I kick it your way.
And they will never, liberals, Democrats, rein in that excessive spending or spend it well and wisely, because their aim is just to run a grift and cater to people who will vote for them.
Right.
Like, the recklessness is the game. And I point back to Republicans, that the Republican Party used to be the party of small government.
Right.
And they are not.
Amen,
Not in
sister.
any way, shape, or form. And the COVID spending was part of it, but just look at the reticence in the One Big Beautiful Law to reduce the growth of Medicaid. That it was like pulling teeth and toenail to slow the runaway spending of Medicaid.
Yep.
And you talk about like reducing the size of anything, and these Republicans lose their minds, Josh Hawley and his ilk. I just want to leave you with this. This is something that Michael Malice said over the weekend. Nothing is as expensive as a free government program.
Yep.
And this nation is not in a position where we can continue to spend like this and allow the liberal thieves like those in Minnesota to ship our borrowed dollars to parts unknown.
Right.
Don't you
Prince
think?
were alive, this never would have happened.
I'm with you, Brian, though. I'm not sure Klobuchar's any better. We'll have to see.
Definitely not.
There is a line in the TV show Veep that is allegedly based on an incident that happened with Amy Klobuchar. She notoriously treated her staff poorly. And it is about Amy, the Veeps and the president's like aide having to dry shave her legs under her desk.
Can't wait.
And no, but
Is that taxpayer funded?
There's a story about, I think
Indeed.
she ate the Klobuchar eating salad with a comb. Yeah, there are a lot of
Between
stories.
those two images, I lost my appetite.
So that's
Little
fine.
Mermaid.
That's fine in Minnesota. Maybe not on the national stage.
Not fine in Minnesota.
Coming up, the Santa rally wrapping up. Wall Street's already looking ahead. We're going to tell you why investors are betting big this January in the next hour of Big Money.